Morning. Okay, so overnight the epoxy in the 3 tanks has been curing. So this is now really dry, it's very shiny, but that's now three coats on there. So I'm happy that these tanks are now done. And the next stage is to get the lids on. But of course, first, before I can get the lids on, the underside of the lids need 3 coats of epoxy. So that's today's job. So what I've got down here is I've got the 2 aft tank undersides and then the forward tank underside. They all had 1 coat last time I was here. So before I can put the first coat on this morning, those need to be sanded down. So first thing after they're sanded, I can get that first coat on, and then it's going to need about 8 hours, and then they can get a second coat on later on this afternoon. At the same time, last night I put the first coat onto the 2 sides of the centerboard case, and then also underneath the, if you can see it just down there, that's the mast collar, so the underside of the mast collar as well. And also I've got an extra little strengthening piece, which I may or may not use. Let's just see how that works out. This is the forward tank, and I've got this strengthening piece which I've put in here. That was glued in last night, and oh yes, and I also taped underneath these 2 stringers. So these 2 stringers now I've got a little bit of extra reinforcement underneath, and these ones are glued to both these and the bulkhead, and these now have this extra strengthening piece. So once the mast collar, so you can see the hole for the mast now, once that goes in place, then any kind of twisting on this from the mast in kind of rocky conditions, and that's just going to get a little bit of extra support. So that's going to be glassed into there, and then this is the foredeck. So the foredeck will then go on top. So that's going to go on top like that. And hopefully once that's all in position, I can get glued on. So the first job this morning is get these 3 sanded. It shouldn't take long, I'll use the machine because they're flat. And then I can get the first coat on, and then I can have a break and think about what to do next. Because there's going to be a long wait, a long window between the 2 coats. All right, let's get on with it. Okay, I've sanded down the underside of the seats and given them a quick wipe with a damp cloth. So while I wait for those to dry off, because it's not good to mix epoxy and water, so while I wait for those to dry off, I've just been looking into a small problem I had with these port rings. So last time I was here, I actually put one of these rings in and I screwed it into place with 2 screws, and then I backfilled around it to try and make the hole. So when I cut the hole, the holes weren't perfectly round and they weren't exactly the right size, so there was some raggedy gaps, and then with the backing plate as well, some more raggedy gaps. So I'm just trying to kind of backfill that to make it a neater join so that it'll make a better seal, and I'll better seal it with just a little bit of paint. But in order to stop these from getting, because I don't want to screw these in yet, because I want to paint first, and then I'll screw these on top of the paint, so the paint makes a seal, and it'll mean that I'll still better get these off by prising away the paint. Whereas if these get epoxied in place, they'll never come off, and if I need to get them off for any reason, then it's just not going to happen. So in order to stop this from getting sealed in place while I backfilled it, I coated the back of this with electrical tape, and I also put some around the edge, and so that it overlapped as well, so that there was no chance of any of this getting covered in epoxy. So I put that in, I screwed it in, and I backfilled it all. And then yesterday when I came back, trying to get this out was a real mission. It you know, the epoxy had sealed to the tape, and of course the tape is so stuck to this. So I had to effectively break it out by putting the paint scraper in between the epoxy and this, and then just, you know, really, you know, hammering it in and all the way around and really cutting through the epoxy, basically cutting through that join. So I eventually got it out, but it took a good, you know, 20 minutes, half an hour to get that thing out. So, but I still want to do the backfilling. So I thought, I can't just use this as it is. I need some way of getting this out by itself. So I need something else in there. And so I've come up with this idea of using a cardboard ring. So I've just cut a couple of pieces of cardboard and made them into a circle around the edge of here. So the idea being that when that goes on there, that is now covered in tape. So the idea is that with that screwed in place, I can backfill around this. When I come to take this out, the ring will be glued into position, and I'll better pull this out, and then I'll just better rip the cardboard off from the epoxy or sand it off or something. So this is going to be my attempt number 2 for the backfilling, and I'll do that on the other side at some point today. Okay, that's that. So these things are feeling pretty dry now, so I think I'll mix up the first batch of epoxy. Okay, let's go. So here I am, once again, mixing some epoxy. 2 minutes mixing time, and now I'm using that to paint onto the underside of the seats and the foredeck, giving them the second coat. Also the mast collar. Now I'm adding a bit of thickener, making it into a glue, and then backfilling the port ring. Now I'm measuring up. This is sometime later, this is a few hours later. So that second coat has dried, so now I'm mixing up a third batch for the next coat. But first of all, I'm going to put on the strengthening pieces to join where the whole sides where they join. That needs to be glassed over. And then because I've got some left over, I'm going on to do the second coat. It just goes to show it's good to do all your epoxying in one go, because you're never sure exactly how much to mix, and to minimise waste, it's good if you've got all of your things ready to be epoxied, so that you can start one job, and if you've got some left over, you can start the next job with what you've got left over. So the second coat is now going on. Okay, so this is the end of another day. It's been quite a relaxing day really today. I've just done two sessions, or more like 4 sessions of epoxying. So 2 this morning, first thing, and then 2 more just now. So this is so that I could get all the coats on the undersides of the seat tops. So as you can see down here, there's the 2 aft seat tops. There's the foredeck over there, and also there's the mast collar. There's a very small little reinforcing piece which I may use to reinforce the mast collar at the front, and then the 2 sections of the centerboard case. So all these have got 3 coats now, so all these can be used next time I'm here. So the centerboard case, I can glue it together, get that ready to go in the boat, and the tanks, I can think about getting those glued into place. Oh, one other thing I did do as well just now was I've put some fiberglass over the side panel joins. So just here, I'm not going to fiberglass the inside of the side panels to keep the weight down, but I will do the outside and the floor. So those two sections of the sides needed to be glassed where the join was. So the join in the floor has been glassed underneath, but not inside. But I am going to coat the whole of the internal floor area with fiberglass, so that will do that part. And potentially that might be next time. So next time it's either going to be finishing off the tanks, installing the mast collar and the deck, or depending on time, getting the boat upside down and getting some glass underneath. Once the glass is underneath, I can get the keel on. Once the keel's on, I will drill the holes for the centerboard case and cut that. And then it'll be a question of trying to do all the last jobs that are needed before she can go in the water. So she's starting to get close now. So if you've enjoyed watching this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to be notified when more videos come online, then just hit the subscribe button below. Okay, cheers.